الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah, we'll go through the last verse in Surah Al-Mumtahanah, verse number 13 in Surah Al-Mumtahanah, Surah number 60. And we have only a few minutes left till Shuruq. طيب, we'll recite the ayah, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم قد يئسوا من الآخرة كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. يا ذا مد يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم. تنوين after it غين, which is one of the letters of al-Idhar. قوما غضب الله عليهم. قد يئسوا, the قلقلة of the dal. قد يئسوا من الآخرة, the ra is heavy. كما يئس الكفار. If you the kuffar is light, and then the ra is heavy. كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور, and the ra is heavy. This is the last verse of the surah, and brings the beginning and the end of the surah together. The translation of the ayah: O you who believe, take not as friends the people who incurred the wrath of Allah. Surely they have been in despair to receive any good in the hereafter, just as the disbelievers have been in despair about those in graves. So what does that mean? This is a call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the believers after what's mentioned from the beginning of the surah, directing the Muslimin of how to deal with their enemies, mainly in the context of war. And the rules that applies with that is very clear in the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the warning against anything would undermine their loyalty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and to the believers. So he says here in the tafsir, أي يا أيها المؤمنون, O you who believe, that means O believers, إن كنتم مؤمنين بربكم, if you believe in your Lord, ومتبعين لرضاه, and you follow the rida of Allah, you follow the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ومجانبين لسخطه, and you stay away from the sakhat and the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا تتولوا قوما غضب الله عليهم. Do not تولوا, do not be loyal to people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with. Meaning, وَإِنَّمَا غَضِبَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ لِكُفْرِهِمْ. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is angry with them? Because of their disbelief. He says, وَهَذَا شَامِلٌ لِجَمِيعِ أَصْنَافِ الْكُفَّارِ. This includes all the different types of disbelievers. قَدْ يَئِسُوا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ. They, meaning the disbelievers, يَئِسُوا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ. Al-ya'is is the disparity. When someone is in despair He has no hope in the matter. So they had يئسوا من الآخرة. That means they are in disparity from the hereafter. Meaning قد حرموا من خير الآخرة. They have been deprived, meaning the disbelievers. If they die in the state of disbelief, they have been deprived from the goodness of the hereafter. No good for them in the hereafter. If someone dies as a disbeliever, that means he's in the hellfire forever. The moment of death onward forever is nothing but punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is قَدْ يَئِسُوا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ. There's no goodness whatsoever as a result of what? Of this disbelief that they were upon. أي حرموا من خير الآخرة فليس لهم منها نصيب. There's no share, نصيب for them in the hereafter. He says فاحذروا أن تولوهم. Then be warned not to have this muwalah. Al-muwalah is this loyalty, is the love in the heart because of their religion and because of what they're upon, to help them, to give them victory, to aid them against the believers, all of these types of things. فتوافقوهم, so this is how the muwalah is. فتوافقوهم على شرهم وكفرهم. توافقوهم, this is how al-muwalah, when you're loyal to someone, that means you approve what they're upon and more. So فتوافقوهم, that means you approve them. You acknowledge that what they're upon is okay, is fine, is decent, is good, whatever there is. على شرهم, upon their evil actions and upon their kufr. فتحرموا خير الآخرة كما حرموا. So then as a result of that, you also will be deprived from the goodness in the hereafter the same way they will be deprived from the goodness in the hereafter. So this is the meaning of the subject of al-muwala, and the worst thing ever is kufr, disbelieving in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore a Muslim should stay away from approving, saying that this is okay, it's permissible to be upon this, or things like that. But that has nothing to do, before we continue with the verse, with al-mu'amala. Mu'amalat is dealings with goodness, as it's mentioned previously in the verses. لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من ديارهم أن تبروهم وتقسطوا إليهم. That you're kind to them, that you have good dealing with them, and you have justice dealing with them. This is something that is a must. وقولوا الناس حسنا, speak to people with goodness, all of that. But anything when it comes to compromising your deen and the loyalty in matters of deen, this is all something that is not permissible. He says, كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. The same way, so the first part of the ayah, قد يئسوا من الآخرة, they are in disparity from the rewards in the hereafter because they don't believe in it. Or if they believe in it, they believe it in a distorted way with their shirk and associating partners with Allah, and disbelieving in Allah, disbelieving in the messengers of Allah, disbelieving in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But then he says, كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. Their disparity from the goodness in the hereafter. There's no goodness for them in the hereafter, exactly in the same way as al-kuffar, the disbelievers, يئس, that means they are in disparity from the people of the grave. What does that mean? حين أفضوا إلى الدار الآخرة. When those who are in the grave, those who left this world and they departed from it to the hereafter. And the grave is the first stage of the hereafter. ووقفوا على حقيقة الأمر. Those who died, they وقفوا على حقيقة الأمر. Now they see the reality of things. الوقوف is to stand. وقفوا على حقيقة الأمر. حقيقة, the reality of the matter. So الوقف is not necessarily to physically stand, but they are now, their affairs is very upright, is very clear. فبصرك اليوم حديد. When a person dies, then his eyesight, his basira, his vision, he's seeing things is very sharp. Everything becomes clear. The ghaib, the unseen, becomes shahada, becomes something that a person sees. So those who died, they already see the reality of it. وعلموا علم يقين أنهم لا نصيب لهم منها. They know that after they depart from this life, that they have no share in the hereafter whatsoever. And that level of certainty because they saw it with their own eyes now. So the disbelievers, those who died, now their affairs is they see that they have no share whatsoever in the hereafter, no hope whatsoever for them except the hellfire forever. So this is one meaning of it. كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. That means أصحاب القبور here, the أصحاب القبور, that means the owners of the graves, the people in the grave. That means they are the kuffar. كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. To translate it, this is the first meaning. I want you to get that first meaning clear. The same way as the disbelieving ones in the grave, they are in disparity of any goodness in the hereafter. Right? So the kuffar here meaning they are أصحاب القبور. So when the ayah says كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور, these are not two different people. Al-kuffar here in the verse, they are أصحاب القبور. So it refers to the kuffar in the graves. So the kuffar in the grave, those who already died, they see that they have no hope for any goodness in the hereafter. You get that meaning? So كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور, this is one thing. أصحاب القبور are the kuffar. Here those kuffar that died. ويحتمل أن المعنى, the other meaning, which is also valid, which is correct, قد يئسوا من الآخرة, that means they are in disparity from the hereafter, أي قد أنكروها وكفروا بها, that means they denied it, they disbelieved in it. فلا يستغرب حينئذ منهم الإقدام على مساخط الله, and that's why it's not something strange for them that they would do the evil actions that brings the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala وموجبات عذابه وإياس من الآخرة, and that brings the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and no goodness for them in the hereafter. كما يئس الكفار, the second meaning, كما يئس الكفار المنكرون للبعث في الدنيا, as the disbelievers, those who are in disparity, meaning they disbelieve in the resurrection. من رجوع أصحاب القبور إلى الله تعالى, they are in disparity the same way that they are in disparity, meaning they deny the people in the grave that they would return to Allah. How the disbelievers, what the disbelievers believe when it comes to those who are dead. If you ask them, they say they're dead, they're done, that's it. They don't believe in the hereafter. So the same way the disbelievers in this world, they don't believe in the hereafter, and they don't believe that the people of the grave are now in the hereafter or in there's barzakh and so on and so forth. The same attitude is this yes. They are in disparity from anything would happen in the day of judgment or after death. So they are in disparity from the rewards of any goodness in the hereafter. Is it clear? So كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور, that means al-kuffar and ashab al-qubur are two different things. So as the disbelievers, meaning in this dunya, they are in disparity or yes, when it comes to the people in the grave, meaning they don't believe that the people in the grave, they're upon anything. They become dust and that's the end of it. So this is the meaning of the yes or disparity from the people of the grave. So since in their hearts, and this is actually the whole concept of the everlasting punishment in the hereafter. The disbeliever in his heart, he does not believe in the hereafter. When the message reached him that the hereafter is an everlasting life, no end to it. And if they die in the state of disbelief, they will be in the hellfire forever, in the hereafter. So in their hearts, they disbelieve in this. And they don't act in this life according to what the reality is. So what happened? So when they die and they are thrown into the hellfire forever, they deserve it. Because in their hearts, it was forever. So a person would say, but they lived only for few years and the punishment is an everlasting one. Yes, because in their hearts, it's an everlasting disbelief. So if they would live on the face of the earth forever, they would continue to disbelieve forever. So they knew that and they understood that. So that's why كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. This is the justice of Allah. They are in disparity from any goodness that can happen to the people in the grave, if they are believers. They are in disparity from believing, meaning that the people in the grave will be punished or rewarded. So therefore, there is no goodness for them in the hereafter forever. So the word al-yas or disparity, I guess it depends on how it's used. But al-yas is when a person has no hope is not necessarily a good thing. Hope it comes in the meaning of something good, right? You hope for something. But can you say a person is hoping that he will be thrown into the hellfire? No. But then the word al-yas, it can be applied that way, which means what words you guys can help me with some of the words. That means, for example, a person would say, if a person disbelief in the hellfire, right? So that means he has no not hope. He has no longing or believing that will happen, right? So because of that, this is how, what's the state in their hearts? This is called yes. Because they disbelieve, there is nothing whatsoever in their heart will make them think that there is hellfire or Jannah. So this is the meaning of, or the second meaning of كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. There is yes in their hearts. That means there's nothing beyond this life. Whether it's hope of something good or fear of something bad, there's nothing because they're disbelievers. So this is the second meaning. So يا أيها الذين, so that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbid the believers from having this mu'ala. This is their affairs. This is how they're going to be in the hereafter. If they die in the state of disbelief, this is how their affairs will be in the hereafter forever. So would the believers be loyal to them in the hereafter? Of course not. فريق في الجنة وفريق في السعير. Group in Jannah and group in the hellfire. So, and this is maybe like Kathir rahimahullah, he says, let me read what he says so that maybe it becomes clearer. The first meaning of it, he says, كما يئس الكفار الأحياء. That makes it clear. As the kuffar al-ahya, the living kuffar, they ya'isa, that means they have no hope or nothing that is in their hearts. من قراباتهم الذين في القبور أن يجتمعوا بهم بعد ذلك. They are in disparity from the relatives, from those who they passed away, that they would ever meet them again. Why? Because to the disbelievers, this life, nothing beyond this life. So if someone died, that's it. Their relationship is gone forever. They won't see one another because their life, according to them, is finished forever. So this is the meaning of كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. Two separate people, so two separate individuals here. The kafir that is living versus those who are dead. The one that is living is in disparity that he would ever see or meet the one that died. So this is one meaning. لأنهم لا يعتقدون بعثا ولا نشورا, because they don't believe in ba'ath or resurrection. So their raja, their hope is already been terminated, and this is what they believe. So this is كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور أي الكفار الأحياء قد يئسوا من الأموات. The living kuffar يئسوا are in disparity from those who are dead. Now, this is the first meaning. The second one, which he mentioned in the Tafseer Sa'di as the first meaning, كما يئس الكفار الذين هم في القبور من كل خير. So the first meaning that we said was what? The kuffar, those who are dead. كما يئس الكفار من أصحاب القبور. It refers to the kuffar that are already dead. They are in disparity of any goodness because now they see that with their own eyes. When they believe then would not benefit them. This is a belief. Is it a belief? No, because the belief was supposed to be in this world. So this is the two meanings of it, and it shows the evil act of disbelief and how the believers are supposed to, this is by itself is a da'wah to them by embracing the truth so that they save themselves from this everlasting punishment. And again, as mentioned before, the relationships, the matters of dunya matters and buying and selling and goodness and to be kind to the neighbor, this is something else. This verse does not talk about this. SubhanAllah, even in the context of war, this is something that people need to learn, which is in our deen, books of fiqh, even in the manners of that to be observed in war. And how the Prophet ﷺ forbidding the killing of innocent people and non-combat and all of that. That means these two armies face each other. These verses that talks about war talks about this. Civilians and women and children, this is something that is forbidden for a Muslim in war to even do any harm to them and things like this. But even when you read the history of Islam, when the Prophet ﷺ, when he conquered Mecca, and he has power now. And now he has the full authority and the means to do whatever he can with the disbelievers, those who came, they expelled them from Mecca, the best place on the face of earth. And they tortured the companions radiallahu anhum and killed some of them. And they came all the way to Medina more than one time to fight the Prophet ﷺ. And in the battle of Al-Ahzab, they were not just fighting and going back home. Their intentions, their means is to erase them from the face of earth. And after all of this, the Prophet ﷺ, when he conquered Mecca and the disbelievers were there, and they said to them, what do you think of me doing to you? And they said, you're the best and things like that. They said, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. Go, you are free. Where is that on the face of earth? Is there an example like this in humanity? In the context of war, usually when the conqueror, he wins, it's a bloodshed against the enemies. And this is something that is never heard of. Look what the Crusaders did when they went to Jerusalem. They entered there, it was said, even the numbers as Ibn Kathir, Dana and others, they said in the huge numbers. The streets were flooded with blood, to innocent people, to worshippers, not people in combat. Sheikh Hussein Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, when he went to talk with the Mughal, am I saying right? Huh? المغول, the Mughal. No, the Mughal. When he was going with talking to them, the Muslims versus them they had captured prisoners of war, meaning the Mughal, they have Muslims and Christians from the Muslim land. They took them as prisoners of war. So he went with a group of people to negotiate with them to free the prisoners of war from their side. So they told him, okay, we'll give you the Muslims only. He said, no, we're not leaving until we get the people of Ahl al-Dhimma. They are from us. The Christians that were from the Muslim land. He did not say, well, give us the Muslim and forget about the Christians. No, we're not leaving till you give us both, the Muslims and the Christians from our land. So this is the manners of the Muslims when they have the upper hand. And this is what the verse is then to be understood in the light of all of this. Different than those who would distort verses and take things out of context. And that's why the deen of Allah has been practiced perfectly. So the understanding of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, it's a must. It's by necessity to be understood the way the early generations of Islam understood it. The way the Prophet ﷺ applied it, the way the companions radiallahu anhu applied it. And that's why this is part of the deen. This is not just an advice. Let's just understand the Quran and the Sunnah from the way the companions radiallahu anhum and the tabi'een and the tabi'een understood it. No, this is part of the deen. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us. So subhanAllah, the Quran miraculous in its words. And the way to apply it is not left for each and everyone's interpretation. But rather we are commanded in the Quran to interpret the Quran and to understand it and to implement it in our life the same way it was implemented by the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba radiallahu anhum that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was pleased with. So how did the Prophet ﷺ apply these verses? How did the Sahaba radiallahu anhum apply it? It was a very obvious thing. So then when someone comes and says terrorism and all of this is evil. This has nothing to do with the deen of Islam. Some crazy people, some people that are deviant, they apply their own deviant beliefs. It has nothing to do with the deen of Allah. It's not to say that as a way of weakness. No, this is deen. This is religion. And that's why al-ghadr, or to betray someone or to betray people that a person lives with them, this is such an evil sin. Even if they are in war, it is not permissible to betray them. If they have a treaty of aman or security or so, al-ghadr, the Prophet ﷺ, the companions radiallahu anhum, never betrayed anyone whatsoever. And that's why these evil actions that they attributed to the deen of Islam is so evil for them to do so. Individuals, yes, individuals can do anything. Shaitan, Iblis, he can say that he is a believer and he can do whatever he wants. This has nothing to do with the deen of Islam. The deen of Islam is perfect if people understand it in the right way and apply it the way the Prophet ﷺ applied it in his life. And I took no questions, inshallah. If you have anything after the dars, inshallah.